Yes, I know that I'm a bit late with this review. And to be honest with you, what happened was I was going to go see this film weeks ago, but I didn't renew my AMC Stubs account to go to the movies until this week because Black Widow was coming back. And I figured why not go see A Quiet Place Part 2 because I did enjoy A Quiet Place, the first one, and I was curious about where A Quiet Place Part 2 would go with the story because I felt like A Quiet Place is a movie that didn't really need a sequel. It had a beginning, middle, and end, and even though the ending was sad and the whole movie's pretty damn depressing if you ask me, I was wondering where could they possibly go with this, and after seeing the trailers, I still wasn't sure, so that lack of knowledge and that lack of assumption and lack of speculation and also lack of spoilers, so I avoided spoilers for this film, really had me intrigued about where the story would go. Plus, I heard from a few people that it was a pretty good flick, so I checked it out today. John Krasinski writes and directs this film as well as the first movie, and he actually played the main character of the first film. And with A Quiet Place 2, it continues where the previous film left off in this post-apocalyptic world following this one family trying to survive and try to live as long as possible in this really terrifying world. And interestingly enough, part 1 came out before the pandemic. Part 2 was supposed to come out last year, but, the pandemic kind of slowed everything down, but it finally came out in May of 2021. And the reason why I bring that up is because of how, when you think about the stuff that we went through last year, that was bad, but can you imagine living in a world like A Quiet Place where you are constantly hiding out and having to be quiet and not make noise to hide from being slaughtered by these seemingly invincible or at least very difficult to kill aliens that don't see, but they have incredible hearing senses, and thus you have to be quiet, which serves as both the plot and the gimmick of the film. The first movie did the gimmick to perfection, and I didn't think they could really top that with part 2, or I didn't think they could really do something where they went back into the world, but John Krasinski figured out a way to continue the story, and the story follows the family once again. And the big question is, and I thought about this in the first film too, but now it really came up as I'm watching this film. Is the Abbott family, the family from the first movie, are they the only survivors? That does get brought up in this film. Emily Blunt reprises her role from the first film. Noah Dupay, Millicent Simmons, all are back. Also joining the cast is Cillian Murphy. That's right, Scarecrow from the Dark Knight trilogy. As a character who's really, he actually is the one that has the arc in this film. Actually, let me take that back. Everybody has an arc in this movie, but he has probably the one that's the most, I guess the one that had the most development. The other characters have their arcs too, especially with the ending of this film, because the ending of this movie was, I don't want to spoil it, but it really was a payoff if if you enjoyed the first movie and if you enjoyed this movie or if you watched it. But I'm going to tell you this right now. If you have not seen A Quiet Place 1, you're going to want to see it before you see part 2. This is not one of those films where it explains everything off the hop or it explains what the first film kind of established. You really need to see the first film before seeing the second one. It's really important that you see the first film. Trust me on this one. Because there are things that this film references from the first film, not just Easter eggs, so there's a few of those in here, but overall just important story elements about the family, about other characters, about this world that they live in and the problems they have to deal with. And ultimately, it is necessary. So if you haven't seen the first film, definitely watch it. And if you have seen it, but it was a long time ago, you may want to watch it again and refresh it because it's important. It is very, very important. You see, this movie kind of acts the way that Halloween 2 did with Halloween 1, or the way Insidious 2 did with Insidious 1. It is a horror film. It's a creature horror film, a monster movie. And it is one that the quieter you see the film in, the better. but it's one that really does serve as the second half of the story. It's not necessary. The story could have ended satisfactory in the first film, as dreary as it may be, but truth be told, this film does continue the story in a decent way. If I'm being honest with you, I think they should stop right here. I think the gimmick works, but I think honestly, the time has come for them to stop because with these horror films, when you start getting to part 3, part 4, part 5, they really start to kind of grind down depending on the franchise. And it does start to get old. And I think John Krasinski did a great job with the first 2 films. And I think at this point, keeping the series going would only be a cash grab, if I'm being real with you. And this movie already made a ton of money. The movie still manages to be very suspenseful, and like I said a minute ago, the quieter atmosphere, the better. I was in a relatively quiet movie theater, but it really wasn't that great of an experience for me because there are moments in this film that are best seen with complete dead silence, and because there was a movie playing next to this movie in the theater I was in, the loud, I don't know if it was Fast and Furious, it probably was, but the loud, like, clanging and banging and explosions of that film, like, the audio kind of bled into this movie, so as I'm watching the film, and it's silent, and the characters are talking to each other, I'm over here trying to figure out if it's part of the movie, like something in the background that's suddenly coming to the characters, or if it's something in my theater, and that really got annoying. And so if you do see this film, try to see it at a time or somewhere, maybe with Dolby or something, or try, when it comes out on Paramount Plus soon, try to watch it with complete silence or as much silence as possible because it really does add to the suspense. It does add to the way that the direction goes with the sound engineering and how you have to hear things in the distance and, little noises here and there. But the movie is relatively fun. It's a fun movie to watch. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It's only about an hour and 30 minutes, right? It's about an hour and 30, hour and 40 minutes, so it's not very long. And it does continue the story pretty well. And if you like the first movie, you're going to like this one. And if you haven't seen the first one, watch it. And if you like it, go see A Quiet Place too. It's a very thought-provoking film. It's a film that, as you watch it, you kind of are sitting there like, man, what would I do? Could I survive in this world? Could I survive in this world? And the way that these people try to survive being creative and being crafty, it works for a while, but how much longer? And as I'm watching, I'm like, how much longer can they do this? And to me, that's really the strength of this film is that it makes you think. Like you're thinking about this. You're thinking about this during the movie. You're thinking about it after the movie ends. And to me, this is a great little 2-film story that I don't think should even end it here, dude. I don't think there should be a third one. There are ways you can make a third one, like focusing on another family or maybe a prequel. But to me, this has a solid finale. This is a solid finale to the franchise, if you ask me. I don't want them to milk it because these are really good films. They're artistic, but they're also good horror films, good monster movies. That's my review. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.